The following podcast is scheduled for one fall. Coming down the aisle, Matt, Dave, the SuperPlex Brothers! Hey everybody, welcome to the debut episode of the SuperPlex Brothers podcast. I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt.
And we have a good show for you today. Of course, if you're new to us, which all of you are since this is the first episode, the SuperPlex Brothers is a show about video games and pro wrestling. And with that, I think we may as well just get started talking about some stuff that happened recently. And we're going to start off with wrestling, because why not? Anyway,
bigger things happened in wrestling this past week than in gaming. That's why.
Okay.
Much bigger things.
Good enough. Anyway, so first things first, we're going to talk about Summerslam, because that's the biggest thing that happened this week. And basically how this is going to work is we are going to go down the card, and we're just going to talk about each match. I suppose we can give kind of a rating. We have our own little rating system that we're going to go with, and we'll explain that when we actually start rating matches. But we're just going to go down the card and talk about each match, what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it. Now, in Matt's case, he missed about the first half of the card, so it's going to be me mostly talking about it this time around.
Nothing I could do, guys. I had to make that money.
Indeed. He works, so blame Subway.
Yes, blame them and their quote-unquote deals.
Indeed. Anyway, without further ado, I guess we'll get things started with the pre-show, the SummerSlam kickoff, which had Rob Van Dam versus Dean Ambrose for the United States Championship. Big Show and Mark Henry accompanied Rob Van Dam to the ring, and the Shield, of course, came out together. And to no one's surprise, this ended with the DQ, with Rob Van Dam getting the win. Of course, as we all know, DQs do not give you the title, so basically a throwaway match, and in my personal opinion, this really shouldn't have been the pre-show. In fact, there's another match on the card that we will be talking about in a little bit that really should have been the pre-show, but wasn't because of bullshit reasons. Anyway, it was a pretty okay match. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't really paying attention to all of it because, you know, pre-show, that's when you get your stuff ready for the actual show. But what I did see, it was actually halfway decent, but nothing special. So, anyway, as far as rating this match goes, I'm going to talk about how we actually rate these matches. We are going to rate these on a scale of wrestling lingo, basically. A match that's really bad is going to get jobber rating. A match that's not great but not too terrible is going to get lower mid-card rating. A match that is good but not great is going to get an upper mid-card rating, and a match that's great is going to get a main event rating. Now, as far as what I would call this match, I'm going to give it a lower mid-card rating. Obviously, Matt didn't watch it, so he can't really give it a rating.
Nope.
Without further ado, I guess we'll go into the next match, which is the first match of the actual show, which was Bray Wyatt versus Kane in a Ring of Fire match, or a Johnny Cash sing-along match, whatever you want to call it. But this match didn't live up to the hype. Quite frankly, there were a lot of things wrong with this match. And this isn't really anything against Bray Wyatt himself. I think he did fine for what he had to do, but I really didn't like the way this match was booked. They made Bray Wyatt look like a bitch. They really made him look like a bitch. The match was only 7 minutes and 49 seconds long, and throughout a good 6 minutes of that match, he was getting the shit kicked out of him badly.
And then the Wyatt family was having some crazy antics at ringside.
Oh my god, it was almost cartoonish. They had Eric Rowan and Luke Harper out there trying to find a way to get into the ring, which involved things like trying to split the fire with a kendo stick. I shit you not. The kendo stick caught on fire, and of course, just matter-of-factly, the fireman comes up and sprays the kendo stick with a fire extinguisher. It looks stupid as hell. Then Eric Rowan got a frickin' fire extinguisher and started spraying the fire to try and get in the ring that way. Of course, the fire came right back up. And finally, they knocked out the fireman, took a blanket, covered the fire, got the steps, and then walked into the ring, beat the shit out of Kane, and then Bray Wyatt got the win from that.
Stupid.
It looked horrible. It looked stupid. They looked like a comedy stable. It didn't help either that Jerry Lawler was whooping all over commentary saying, they look like Duck Dynasty meets Charles Manson.
Which he continued to do during Raw.
Ugh. Like I said, Bray Wyatt got almost no offense in. If you ever watched Bray Wyatt in FCW and on NXT, he was dominant as fuck on that show. He rarely lost. The only time he lost was to either talent that they were planning to build really huge or to already established stars.
Bo Dallas.
Anyway, so I'm giving that match... I don't even want to. I gotta give that match a jobber rating. It was not a good match. It was pretty much... The outside antics were too distracting. The fact that they made Bray Wyatt look like a bitch. And quite frankly, the fire was made irrelevant by the fact that they still managed to get in the ring. It was just poorly booked. And quite frankly, that hurt it.
Right.
It didn't help either that they made Bray Wyatt look like he was afraid of the fire. During that match.
They should have had him take Kane's power.
Which was pointless because he kept cutting promos about how he wasn't afraid of the fire, and they kept treating him like he was this supernatural deity. You know, and some people were like, well, that's the whole cult leader gimmick, you know. He talks a big game, but he's full of shit. No, that doesn't work with Bray Wyatt because we saw when he was on FCW and NXT, he didn't have that kind of same bullshit chicken shit nonsense.
Right.
What he said was true, at least to the extent of his character. But anyway, that's all I can really say about that. And moving on to the next match of the night, Cody Rhodes versus Damian Sandow. Quite frankly, this was a great match. The two put on a good show, a lot of back and forth action. Led to Cody Rhodes getting the win, which, I don't know, it made sense then, but considering what happened on Raw, it doesn't really make a lot of sense now. A lot of great moves, though, that went on during this match, though. Cody Rhodes pulled out another muscle buster like he did during Money in the Bank, which was awesome. Damian Sandow has like a new submission, which is like a weird mix of the sharpshooter, the educator, and like a lion tamer kind of thing. It looked really fucking cool. But of course, Cody Rhodes got the win with the Crossroads. Like I said, great match. Would I call it a classic? No, but it was still a great match. I gotta say, upper mid-card. Definitely a solid match. Of course, Matt doesn't have anything to say about this because he didn't see this. We move on to the next match, though, with Alberto Del Rio versus Christian for the World Heavyweight title. Honestly, another great match. Again, back and forth action. Christian looked really good out there. Alberto Del Rio looked really good out there. Not really a whole lot I can say. I guess I could talk about the ending a little bit. Christian went for a spear. However, his shoulder was injured. It was the shoulder that he previously injured that had him out for a while. And when he hit that spear, it hurt him. Alberto Del Rio took advantage of it and put him in the cross-arm breaker and got the win from that. And honestly, I thought that we were going to see a comeback last night, but that ended up not happening. Alberto Del Rio, after the match, cuts a promo saying how finally the Latino community has a champion they could be proud of and all this and that, sucking up to the Latino community. And considering they were in LA last night, I thought Rey Mysterio was going to come back,
Yeah.
and kind of start a program with Del Rio. And they would kind of go on with that on Raw the next night. But as you'll hear about afterwards, that's not what happened. Anyway, so nobody ended up coming out during Del Rio's promo, and, well, whatever. Anyway, next match, Natalya with Cameron and Naomi at ringside against Brie Bella with Eva Marie and Nikki Bella at ringside.
Really glad I missed this one.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, for a Divas match it was good, but this really didn't need to be on this point of the card.
Total
There
Divas.
was no... Yeah, quite frankly, the only reason why this wasn't the pre-show and Rob Van Dam and Dean Ambrose was because of Total Divas. And quite frankly, I haven't watched it yet. I've heard some decent things about it, but it's not my cup of tea. So I have no interest in that show. And I don't think that this match really should have taken place of Rob Van Dam and Dean Ambrose for the card. I really don't think so. Natalya wins by submission. Like I said, for a Divas match, it was pretty good, but that's really not saying much.
Right.
And with that part down, we now move on to the second half of the card, which Matt can now join us for in discussion. Oh, as far as the rating goes for the Natalya match, lower mid-card. Not great, not bad. Anyway, we now move on to the second half of the card, in which Matt can finally join us in this discussion.
A very
Brock
interesting
Lesnar.
second half of the card.
Yes. Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman versus CM Punk.
Match of the night.
Which was changed. Actually, I disagree with that, but which was changed into a no DQ match, of course, the night of, which I knew this was coming. There was no way, and whether Matt agrees with me with this or not, I know we've kind of talked about this before. There's no way that they can have CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar in a legitimate singles match and make CM Punk look like a threat to him. They had to have the no DQ there, because whether anyone likes it or not, perception is reality to a lot of people, And CM Punk looked great in this match, but only because of the no DQ factor giving him the equalizers. I mean, I'm not wrong when I say that, Especially since, even though Brock Lesnar only has about a half and half win-loss record, he's billed as this unstoppable force, and he looks like it, and he wrestles like it. All of his matches so far have had stipulations like this because, quite frankly, you're not going to be able to believe John Cena or Triple H beating Brock Lesnar clean in a singles match.
Right. I think just about every match he's had has been at least no DQ.
Yes, every match he's had since coming back has had some kind of stipulation like that. Has had some kind of stipulation of either no DQ or a steel cage. And that's because it's just
Brock Lesnar.
He's Brock Lesnar. And that's just what it comes down to. And if you can't believe that John Cena or Triple H can beat Brock Lesnar clean in a singles match, I'm sorry, but you're not going to be able to believe that CM Punk could.
Yeah, but it made the match a lot better. So
it did make the match, although there were some parts of the match that were kind of iffy. Like, CM Punk really needs to stop doing the diving elbow.
So I don't really see an issue with it.
There was one that he did last night that it didn't look like a diving elbow at all. It looked like a splash. It was that bad. But as far as this match goes, yeah, I gotta agree, it was pretty good. It wasn't match of the night, but I would still say it was a main event match.
Yeah, I would definitely give it main event. The only issue I had with it was the end, like the little last few minutes of it, where CM Punk put all of his focus on the Paul Heyman And why would you do that? Why would CM Punk do that character-wise, knowing that Brock Lesnar is like just right behind him in the ring? I get that it's supposed to be CM Punk getting his revenge on Paul Heyman, but he should like his character would definitely make sure Lesnar's down like permanently before targeting Paul Heyman. That made him look stupid, and the commentators kept going, "Oh, he's got nothing to be ashamed of." Yes, he does, because he
Yeah,
screwed
he did.
himself. He
He
screwed
did.
himself.
Yeah. That bit did make Punk look a little stupid. I mean, and even I don't know. It's not even just the fact that it's not in CM Punk's character. No sane human being would just leave Brock Lesnar alone to go after pudgy little Paul Heyman.
Exactly. And
No
CM
sane
Punk
person
of
would
all
do it.
people too.
No sane person would do it. But anyway, that's all I really have to say about that match. It was a great match, but there was that little stupid thing at the end that really
I
didn't make it match of the night for me.
I would say it was probably Lesnar's best match since returning, though.
Yeah, yeah. Although I have to say, I do like his match with Cena
Yeah, that was a
from
good match, but
Extreme Rules.
once again, till the ending. That seems to be a running theme.
No, at least the ending was still kind of believable. But anyway, that was definitely Lesnar's best match though since coming back. The next match is Dolph Ziggler and Caitlyn versus Big E Langston and AJ Lee.
Throwaway match.
It's a throwaway match. It's not jobber tier, but it's lower mid card.
Easily lower mid card.
Um, it had its moments. I always love seeing Caitlyn put a spear on AJ because for some reason that thing is a thing of beauty. She has a better spear than Edge ever did.
She has a better spear than a lot of people do.
I know. I mean, it's not quite Rhino tier, but
Right? I mean,
I'd say
especially considering for a diva.
I'd say it's about Goldberg tier.
Yeah.
I
And
think
for a
that's pretty
diva
fair.
especially, like, that's pretty impressive.
I mean, when she throws that spear on somebody, she's looking like she's actually killing them.
Right.
But yeah, not a lot to say about this match. Solid wrestling, but
3 in a 5.
Big E Langston's theme is really the highlight of this match. I love that theme so much.
If they're using that theme, they need to bring in that gimmick.
I know. I love that gimmick on NXT. Why haven't they brought it in yet? But
Because he's too busy trying to bang AJ.
I guess so. Anyway, the final match of the night, Daniel Bryan versus John Cena. Shenanigans aside afterward, which I won't count for the actual match, bell to bell, this was the match of the night.
So it was a close second for me. And it's probably the CM Punk mark in me overriding the Daniel Bryan mark in me. But this was definitely an amazing match. Easily main event tier.
Easily main event here. For me, bell to bell, this was the match of the night. Great back and forth action. Cena didn't look like shit here either. And whether or not you want to attribute that to Daniel Bryan making anybody look great, or just, you don't think John Cena's the worst thing that ever happened.
Cena can pull out a good match. Look at the Money in the Bank match against CM Punk in 2011. I would say this match and the 2011 Money in the Bank match were almost on the same level of how good they were, like wrestling wise.
Yeah, I'd say the only time in this match where I could say Cena really fucked up was that one move where we thought he broke Daniel Bryan's neck.
Yeah.
I mean, that was scary because, that could have been career ending. And Jesus Christ, nobody wants to see that happen to anybody, let alone somebody that's so goddamned over like Daniel Bryan.
And the crowd. The crowd was so into this match, it wasn't even funny.
Indeed. The crowd was definitely waiting for this match. They were waiting for Daniel Bryan to come out specifically. They booed the shit out of Cena.
Yes.
I mean, this was on par with the Money in the Bank 2011 crowd as far as their hatred for Cena.
Yep.
Not quite One Night Stand 2006 tier.
But it's pretty up there.
It's pretty up there. I'd say probably top 3 as far as crowds that hated Cena. Yep. But overall, this was a great match. A lot of great wrestling. What's funny is I saw a screenshot of this actually not too long ago, but they did some of the same spots in this match that they did in their 2004 Velocity match.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when John Cena was first starting with the rapper gimmick and Daniel Bryan came in as just a local jobber.
Oh, wow.
Although he went by his actual ring name then, his actual, his indie ring name then, Bryan Danielson. But they did a lot of the same spots then that they did. They did a lot of the same spots in the SummerSlam match that they did in that Velocity match, which was a nice throwback.
I didn't even know that. That's a very nice throwback. That's a good touch there.
Um, I'll have to send you that picture when we're done.
Yes,
But
you will.
there was also some really interesting moves that Cena pulled out. That fucking lariat was a thing of beauty.
God, that looks so painful.
You know, I'm a huge mark for the lariat. It's one of my favorite Impact moves, just because it's so basic and looks so brutal when done right. But
Wasn't that with his bad arm too?
no, I think that was with his good arm. And
Okay.
that's another thing we should have mentioned. John Cena had his bad elbow covered up during this match.
Yes.
So
And that will lead into something on Raw.
yeah, one thing I have to say, commentary pissed me off during this match though. Specifically Jerry Lawler. There was one line he said during this match that really, really irked me because he basically buried the fuck out of Daniel Bryan in this match. With one line. He says, he said something along the lines of, I don't remember word for word, but he said something along the lines of, could you imagine that? John Cena wins the title from The Rock only to lose it to Daniel Bryan?
Yeah, I remember that line.
That
It,
was just like, why the fuck are you burying this kid?
I think JBL and Cole were the only ones really trying to put him over.
Yeah, but I still hate the fact that even JBL will still bring out the GOAT reference.
Yeah, that's annoying too. I I,
That
hate- I
shit,
hate the goat crap, man.
I blame CM Punk for that. But that shit needs to go away. And, you know, that pisses me off. Anyway, definitely a main event match. And of course, it's time to talk about the controversy.
Oh man, our now unpopular opinions. At first, we had quite the popular opinion about the controversy, but it seems as time has went on since this all happened, things have changed in the internet wrestling community. But
Anyway, what we're talking about is after the match. Of course, Daniel Bryan has a big celebration, confetti, streamers,
pyro,
fireworks, and it was amazing. I mean, it looked like an honest to God, a Star Was Born moment.
and
And then,
then
of course, Randy Orton's music hits, which we all saw this coming. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. They're like, oh, they really worked us. No, they didn't. We saw this coming.
we
We
just
knew it
didn't
was going
want
to
it to
happen.
happen.
We just didn't want it to happen. That's exactly it. And, of course, Randy Orton comes out, and Daniel Bryan's looking pumped, like, come on, let's do this. And then, of course, Triple H grabs him, pedigrees him. Randy Orton gets the pin.
Kills him.
1,
No,
2,
he
3.
doesn't pedigree him. He kills the kid.
Yes. Well, the pedigree is the single most deadly move in all of wrestling. Don't you know that?
How could I forget?
But Triple H then starts celebrating with Randy Orton, and we have a new champion. And people are like, oh my goodness, it's now the new Austin storyline. What?
It's nothing like
Ugh.
that. It's nothing like that. And I am one who I hate the comparisons between Attitude Era and current stuff. Leave them be. It's a different era for a reason. Just there's never gonna be another Austin. There
And let's
never
be
is.
honest. Let's be honest. Rehashing shit means you're out of ideas.
Yeah, just because someone's going against the boss doesn't mean it's the Austin storyline. At all.
Anyway, we'll talk about that more on Raw. Because this is big. The Raw was going to determine whether or not it would make or break our opinions on SummerSlam. But as far as SummerSlam goes, all in all, I'd still say it was a good show.
I'd put an upper mid card, and if not for
Definitely,
the wrestling between Punk and Lesnar and Cena and Bryan.
As far as I'm concerned, most of the matches were at least enjoyable. The only match that, like I said, got a jobber rating was Bray Wyatt and Kane, and that really had more to just do with how that match was booked than anything else. As far as the actual wrestling goes, overall, this was a pretty solid show. Even the Divas didn't stink it up. I mean, there were, 2 lower mid-card matches, a few upper mid-card matches, and 2 main event level matches.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I'd say that's a pretty good contender for an upper mid-card rating for this show. So, it's not bad. Not bad at all. It's a good show, but it could have been a great show.
Yep. So let's move on to Raw.
Indeed, Monday Night Raw. Like I said, this would make or break our opinion on the end of SummerSlam. And before we just go into our full opinion on all of this, I guess we'll just talk about what happened on Raw first. We start off with John Cena coming out, and at first we were dreading this. Because Cena starts off with, "I am disgusted with what happened last night. Daniel Bryan earned that championship and only had it stolen from him by Triple H and Randy Orton." I was thinking, oh god, he's going to have a feud with Randy Orton, isn't he?
Then he threw a curveball at us and showed us his elbow.
Then they talk about the elbow, which, oh my god, did that thing look disgusting.
Yes, it did.
Oh my god, he really needs to take time off for himself. I don't even say that. Listen, as far as John Cena goes, I'm just going to kind of go on a little tangent real quick. As far as John Cena goes, I'm not the kind of guy who thinks that John Cena is the worst thing that ever happened to pro wrestling. I think that about Bo Dallas. But
Sauce.
But that's Bo Dallas. John Cena can have a great match with the right people.
As he showed
and John Cena is one of those guys that I can't hate the man. He's a good guy. I can't hate him. You know? It's one of those things where it's like the shit he does for kids and all that, I can't hate him for that. I hate when they bring it up as a means to get sympathy from the crowd.
Yep.
But I can't hate him, you know? And I don't think he's the worst thing that ever happened to pro wrestling. In fact, I think there are worse people on the roster. I mean, the Great Khali exists. But anyway, so John Cena then says that because of his elbow, he has to go out for a little while and he's got to get that taken care of. Which, in my opinion, is great. Not only because it'll give a chance for more faces to shine with Sheamus being gone as well. That's a strange thing. John Cena and Sheamus are both out of action.
Time to build some stars.
And with Randy Orton turning heel...
That leaves us with Daniel Bryan.
That leaves us with Daniel Bryan as the top face of the company, which is a beautiful thing.
It is. Anyway...
Well,
CM Punk's a face, too.
Yeah.
But he's still not in the main event stuff, so...
No, he's currently upper mid-card.
Yeah.
But anyway... So John Cena then says he's going to be out for a little while. And then Daniel Bryan comes out. And before Daniel Bryan starts talking, Stephanie McMahon comes out.
Oh, and this is where I was like, oh god.
And we were thinking this is either going to make or break our opinions. And it was just awkward.
It was.
It wasn't even like... I mean, a lot of people were saying it was a great segment. No, it really wasn't.
Daniel Bryan's lines were kind of funny, but it still made no sense for Stephanie, who had shown no signs of being a heel.
Well, not only that,
but be like, Bryan, you're a B+.
But here's the thing. She didn't even start acting like a heel until Daniel Bryan started acting like a complete asshole.
Yeah.
I mean, she was like, Daniel, I'm so sorry about what happened. It's truly heartbreaking. I mean, she looked like she was honest to God concerned. And then Daniel Bryan starts calling her names and saying, once you sleep with trash and...
You start to stink, which I thought that was funny, though. I can't even lie. I thought
it was funny, but it was like, really? And then there was the whole thing where... And then she finally said, you're a B+ talent.
Yeah.
Which is like... Okay, so what about all those times you put Rey Mysterio with the title?
Right? We don't want someone small and scrawny holding our world title.
Or Shawn Michaels, or Ric Flair. You know?
They're not
Because
mastodons.
Ric Flair is not a huge man. You
Right.
know? But anyway, but anyway, so after that, we have.
Well, no, that wasn't even the end of that segment. The end of that segment was the worst part.
Oh
Brian
yeah, I
smacked the
forgot about that.
microphone out of her hand. She got another one and was like, "Security! Escort this
Yeah,
man out of the
that's the
building."
thing. That's the thing too. Why the fuck is a face getting rough with a woman? I don't care if she's a heel. I don't care if she's a heel. What the fuck is that shit? You're supposed to be a good guy of the company and a model and a role model to children. What the fuck are you doing getting rough with a woman?
I don't know if I'd call it getting rough with a woman. I was more
I mean,
I was more concerned about the security coming out and ruining the segment, but
you know what though? It's still one of those things. Like he slapped that microphone out of her hand. Honestly, I thought he was gonna put her in the fucking yes lock. But yeah, the security thing wasn't all that great either. Especially since, and people, again, we have to talk about this. People are like, "Oh, it's just like Austin."
it's not
Austin would not have just walked away.
exactly
Austin would have fought those security guards.
right.
But anyway, so Daniel Bryan just leaves. We then move on to, I think the first match was Cody Rhodes versus Damian Sandow again.
Yep, and you said it was almost the exact same match. It was more like an abridged match of their SummerSlam match.
It pretty much was, and it had the same outcome.
So,
In my opinion, this kind of ruined the SummerSlam match.
because you got it on free TV not even 24 hours later.
And with the same result. It's not like Damian Sandow got his win back.
Exactly.
So that was just kind of a waste of a moment. In my opinion, it was still an upper mid card level match, but it's just why? You know? That seems just kind of like a waste of a match. Now I'm not gonna lie, I don't have the card in front of me right now, so I'm not gonna get the exact order right on what happens. But I'm just gonna talk about what I remember.
Right.
I don't know if this was next, but I know that there was a Divas tag match between the Funkadactyls and Layla and AJ.
And it was stupid and bad.
It was a Divas match.
Yep.
Lower mid card. Easily.
Very
Um,
silly.
it wasn't awful. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen, but it wasn't anything great. The Funkadactyls got the win. And, of course, this was more advertising for Total Divas. Before the match happened, the Bellas went in the back and told them, "You're representing Total Divas. Don't fuck this up." You know, so. Anyway, after that, I think it was either after that or before that. I really don't remember. Brad Maddox is on screen, and he says that Dolph Ziggler said some disparaging comments about Triple H on Twitter, and so he has to face the Shield in a 3-on-1 handicap match. So that happened. So anyway,
Sorry about that. Had to leave for a second. Take care of some personal business.
so we can just edit that shit out. Actually,
Yeah, let's see. That's
the
kind of shit that pisses me off.
Wait, what happened anyway?
He knocks on the door and goes, "You recording?" I just told you 20 minutes ago I was recording an hour-long podcast.
Because I heard Landon come in too.
Yeah, Lana came in and was like, "Hey, I need more credits from my iPhone." I'm like, "What am I supposed to do about that?"
Anyway, okay, I guess we'll just kind of start from when I talked about Brad Maddox. Because that did happen next, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway. So then we see Brad Mannix on screen, and he talks about how Dolph Ziggler was caught on Twitter saying disparaging comments about Triple H. And as a response, he shall face the Shield in a 3-on-1 handicap match. And of course, he was saying something like, not because of what he said about Triple H, but because he's a show-off, and this will be a chance for him to show off his talents. Of course, we all know he was full of shit.
Right.
Which, by the way, Brad Mannix fits so perfectly in this GM role, like the Weasley corporate douche role.
Now, if there's anything I would compare between things, I'm getting Eric Bischoff vibes off Brad Maddox.
Oh my god. You know, I said this to somebody the other day. That really is like the perfect comparison. He reminds me of like a young Eric Bischoff.
Yeah, like it's crazy.
But anyway, so I don't know if did that match happen next or did it?
I think there was something else that was small in between there.
I really don't remember.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and talk about that because that for a handicap match that was pretty great.
Yeah, that was a great match. Upper mid card definitely.
Oh yeah. Ziggler looked
Dolph
strong.
Ziggler looked great out there. I mean, for a 3-on-1, Ziggler looked great. Of course, the Shield. In order for Ziggler to look great, the Shield kind of had to look a little weaker, considering it was a 3-on-1 handicap match.
Right.
But all in all, I think they did a great job with that. There was one point
the
though.
last spot looked vicious. Like I liked that last midair spear they did.
Oh my god, Roman Reigns. We talked about how good Caitlyn's spear is. Roman Reigns has a great spear.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns does that thing like a fucking thing of beauty. And the spear he put on Dolph Ziggler last night was probably up there, one of the best spears of all time. There was also that one point of the match where Rollins, Seth Rollins. Did I say Rollins about the spear?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I'm
Anyway.
pretty sure you were talking about Roman Reigns, but
Yeah. But Seth Rollins had a spot, too, that he looked like he really hurt his knee.
and luckily that didn't turn out to be the case.
I mean, he did hurt it, but thankfully it didn't turn out to be as bad as it could have been.
Yeah, because as we'll get to later, he was able to do other things in the show.
Indeed. And you never want to see talent really injured anyway. I mean, even if you're not a big fan of their work, you never want to see anybody injured.
Right.
And I think that's something that a lot of wrestling fans don't realize. Like, they talk about how bad some wrestlers are, and some people are like, oh, I hope he gets injured so we don't see him for a couple of months. You never want to see a guy get injured doing his job.
Exactly.
That just makes you an asshole.
Yes.
So anyway, I don't know if this was after this, but I guess we may as well talk about it. Bray Wyatt versus R-Truth happened, and lo and behold, Bray Wyatt looked dominant.
He looked really dominant.
What the fuck happened? I mean,
it
I
didn't
understand.
make any sense, honestly.
Listen, I understand you're not going to have Bray Wyatt dominate Kane, but they didn't have to make him look like a bitch. All of a sudden, he looks super fucking dominant against R-Truth. Now, admittedly, R-Truth is basically a jobber at this point to the stars, but it just, like, what happened? We didn't mention this on the SummerSlam part, by the way, but after the match was over between Bray Wyatt and Kane, they beat the shit out of Kane some more, hit him with some steel chairs, and then they dragged Kane away. When Bray Wyatt came out for his match against R-Truth, we didn't get any kind of storyline progression with that. I guess that's going to happen on SmackDown.
Or it might not happen for a while, honestly, because I know that Kane's gone to shoot See No Evil 2. So we don't know how long that's going to take. I can see them dropping hints on it, but I don't know if I would do it on SmackDown.
Yeah, well, even if they talk about it, I mean, I don't expect to be a big storyline revelation on SmackDown, but they might at least kind of mention it.
Right, which I think it's obvious what they're going with.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. It's
and I'm
looking
okay
like
with it.
It's looking like Kane is going to join the Wyatt family, which I'm okay with.
As long as they do it right. They could easily mess it up.
as
But they
long
could
as they
also
do it
make it
right.
one of the best things for Kane's character ever.
Indeed. So Wade Barrett wrestled a match.
Against The
Who did he
Miz.
against the Miz?
That was actually the last match we had before the main event.
Was it?
That was really far down the card.
Oh,
There was another handicap match. Uh, Big Show against the Shield.
oh,
That
that's right.
happened
That
before
happened.
that.
There was also there was a couple. See, like I said, I don't remember exactly the card order. I guess we'll talk about the Wade Barrett match anyway,
Yeah, why not?
because not that it mattered. Most of the matches that night, while some were good, they were still filler. It was an okay match against the Miz. Oh, by the way, Bray Wyatt's match, um, lower mid card. It was a squash. There's nothing really there.
I was gonna say it's a squash, so there's not much you
It's a
can say about
squash.
it.
Not much you can say. But as far as Wade Barrett's match with the Miz, I really don't remember much that happened during this match.
Fandango. That's all I
Oh,
remember.
Fandango came out and hit the Miz, lower mid card.
Speaking of Fandango, there was that really, really awful segment.
Oh, the shilling of Foot Locker.
Good. They did not shut up about that all night
Oh my god.
long.
What's the point of having commercials if you're just gonna have them do that shit?
It was pretty rough.
It was terrible. And speaking of things that are wonderful, we may as well talk about this now. I didn't mention this at SummerSlam, but Ryback has been having some segments lately that, some people don't like, but I think they're fucking hilarious. Because they're like, it's so obvious that they're turning Ryback into what's essentially a schoolyard bully.
What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? Put that down. Pick it up.
Get over
Put
there.
Put your left hand in. Put your left hand out. And shake it all about.
Get in the shower.
You're doing the hokey pokey, and that's what it's all about. But Ryback is basically O'Doyle. And it's amazing.
Which I didn't get that reference, but now I do. So
And
yay.
it's true.
It is. It's insanely true, and I love it.
It's fucking hysterical. Ryback is O'Doyle. I mean, even down to the catchphrase, Ryback rules. But he had a segment at SummerSlam where he was picking on a cook for the catering who made some gazpacho. I almost said Gestapo. That would have been terrible. But who made some gazpacho, and the guy, Ryback was like, "What is this slop?" And he's like, "Gazpacho." He goes, "This soup is cold. It's supposed to be cold." But then he basically ends up pouring the shit down the guy's shirt. And then on Raw, he had a segment where some guy who looked like the same guy from the SummerSlam skit, but he had a skit on Raw where some guy was in his locker room and he made him walk to the shower and open his bag and have water drenches the inside of his bag. These segments led nowhere, by the way. They were just kind of there to be a part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fine by me. I mean, I don't care if they lead nowhere. They're hilarious. But anyway, O'Doyle rules, and so does Ryback. And that's all I have to say about that. There was also a point in the show where Zeb Coulter comes out with, of course, Antonio Cesaro and Jack Swagger. And Zeb Coulter cut a promo, and I was like, oh god, don't tell me they're going here. He's like, talking about other things that are ruining America. And then, of course, the primetime players come out. And I was like, oh god, they're not going there, are they? And of course, if you don't know by now, the news is that Darren Young has come out of the closet that he is gay, that he's a homosexual. And congratulations to him for being brave enough to come out and admit this. Quite frankly, in the profession that he's in, it's not easy being a homosexual. And I'm not even saying that in the sense that Darren Young would be some kind of rapist or anything. But there is scrutiny in professional wrestling because the profession is guys who are half naked wrestling. Right. You know? And it's just, it's just something that he has managed to deal with, and I hope that he continues to deal with flying colors.
Yep. Very,
And
very good for him.
congratulations to him. Um, I like the fact that Titus O'Neil came out and said he was proud of Darren Young.
So many people did,
A lot of
actually.
people came out in support. I'm really glad that
Including the company. They issued a full
indeed,
statement on it.
indeed, I'm really proud of WWE for that. I really hope that they don't try to milk this for everything it's worth, and I hope that they, once he said it, that's it, and they don't try to turn it into his gimmick. They don't try to bring it up on Raw at all. That they just leave it as is, because I think that would be a beautiful thing for a guy who is a homosexual to be a wrestler and just be a wrestler and not have a gimmick change because he's gay.
Well, if last night was an indication, it looks like they're just going to be face, and that's that.
Which is fine by me because I
Yep.
love the primetime players. They're entertaining as hell.
Millions of dollars. Millions of dollars.
They're absolutely entertaining. As far as the match goes, great tag match. I gotta say, Darren Young is pretty underrated as a wrestler. That Northern Light suplex was fucking beautiful. If you don't know, I'm a huge fan of suplexes. Huge fan of suplexes as moves. Especially ones that can be bridged. And the Northern Light suplex is one of my favorites. So I always mark out when somebody actually busts one out. And Darren Young did a great Northern Light suplex.
Speaking of tag teams, we got
yes,
we got a teaser.
we have to talk about this. Oh, as far as the primetime players versus Antonio Cesaro and Jack Swagger, pretty solid tag match. I'm gonna say upper mid card.
I'll agree with that.
Upper mid card match, pretty solid match overall. Now we also got a teaser trailer for another tag team, Los Matadores, which is basically a repackaging of Epico and Primo.
Which
And quite frankly, I'm perfectly okay with this. Quite frankly, I'm a huge fan of gimmicky tag teams. If it means they're going to give some life to the tag division, I'm all for it. I like colorful characters.
Which I can say already, the tag division is starting to build some momentum.
Indeed it is. The Usos are getting more attention. Of course, with the Shield being the tag champs.
Primetime players,
Primetime players.
Real Americans.
Now we got the Los Matadors.
And there's going to be the world's biggest tag team. That's not going to be a permanent thing, most likely, but even then, it's something.
Yeah. Honestly, we saw that tag teams were on the rise when Hell No first became a thing, although it started to fade a little bit when Hell No started becoming more about the main event scene.
Yeah.
Especially when feuding with the Shield. But they were kind of on a low burn with that for a little while, but they're starting to pick up again, and I'm happy about that because tag teams are an important part of wrestling and have been for many, many years. And I like that they are putting a little more emphasis on tag teams again. Make the titles actually worth something. That's always a good thing in my book. So anyway, Los Matadors, I approve. I love cheesy gimmicks, especially when they're done right and colorful. I know some people don't like this already, but
I think it's going to be great. It's probably going to be hilarious too, honestly.
It probably will be, and that's always a good thing. People didn't like Deuce and Domino. I'm like, what are you nuts?
See, Deuce and Domino was around when I first got into wrestling, and I thought they were great.
Deuce and Domino was awesome. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sim Snuka was a terrible wrestler, but I loved the gimmick.
Yeah, and they had Cherry too, which was an added bonus to the gimmick, not just for eye candy, but to the gimmick.
But anyway, I also loved their theme music. They had great theme music. But anyway, enough about that. I look forward to seeing Los Matadors. I want to see what they do with them. I think it could be funny and awesome. So, who knows? And honestly, I'm glad about this for Primo and Epico because, quite frankly, generic Puerto Rican tag team is not all that interesting.
Right.
As long as they keep Rosa Mendez around, though, too. God damn.
Yes.
Anyway, Anyway,
I think there's only one thing left.
is there?
There's only one important thing left that comes to mind at this point.
Was there any Big Show and Shield?
Oh yeah, we didn't really talk about that.
We didn't really talk about it. We mentioned it, but Big Show was doing an interview and he was talking about how he's going after the tag titles with Mark Henry, and which we all knew that was coming.
Yeah. Still don't really want it. Still don't really want it.
I do want to actually mention this though, real quick. With Mark Henry and the Big Show going after the tag titles, there's one thing I don't like about this, and that's the idea of credibility. The thing about Mark Henry and the Big Show, I mean, a lot of people are saying size doesn't matter, but there are some things where it's like, yes, it does. And with Mark Henry and the Big Show going after the tag titles, who could conceivably beat them?
Probably the Shield, and only through BS.
Yeah. I mean, quite frankly, once they get the tag titles, are you honestly going to believe that anybody could beat them clean?
Exactly. That's why I don't think they should win.
If you got the world's strongest man and the guy who's 7'4" and almost 500 pounds,
who's been toning up lately, like he looks like a freaking monster.
I know. I mean, how could you honestly expect that anybody would be able to beat them? Nobody would be able to do it. The only other team that could conceivably come close to standing a match would be like the Brothers of Destruction or the Shield, and that's only through shenanigans.
Yep.
So, I mean, I like Mark Henry. I don't hate the Big Show. So I like the idea of the tag team, but at the same time, I think it could really hinder the division.
If it stays a permanent thing.
If it stays a permanent thing. Although one thing I really worry about is, I said this to Matt recently, but they call Bray Wyatt the Eater of Worlds. Big Show is the Eater of heel stables.
Yep.
He has a history of destroying heel stables, and I hope that they don't just feed the Shield to the Big Show.
And I was nervous with that handicap match last night, segueing into that.
Yeah.
But I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I mean, they did it right. I mean, when Big Show's in a 3-on-1 match, it doesn't matter if, it doesn't matter about the fact that it's 3-on-1. You expect Big Show to do a little ass kicking.
Yeah.
Because he's the fucking Big Show. The guy is bigger than everybody on the roster, with the exception of Khali.
But I was afraid he was going to start picking them off one by one. 2 of them are dead, and the last one just gets obliterated.
Which they almost did.
They did. They really teased doing that, and I was like, no, no, no! But
then Roman Reigns hits that fucking spear. Yep. Although I gotta say, this one didn't look anywhere near as good as the one he hit on Ziggler. Yeah. But, and they got the pin on the Big Show that way. Then they hit him with that triple power bomb. Holy shit!
That was impressive.
I mean, listen. Roman Reigns is strong as a motherfucker, and I'll tell you what, he definitely is one of those guys that is deceptively huge. He don't look anywhere near as big on television as he probably is in real life.
Oh yeah.
He is massive, and I give a lot of credit to Roman Reigns. I mean, yeah, sure, you had 2 other guys help you pick him up, but to be able to hold him up is a completely different feat altogether.
Yep.
But that was actually a pretty solid match too. I got to give that one an upper mid-card rating.
Lots of upper mid-card ratings came out of Raw.
Yeah, Raw had a lot of great matches. I mean, there were some things that we didn't like, but there was a lot of great matches overall on Raw.
Yep.
Or good matches anyway. But I guess with that, we now move on to the final segment of the night, which I want to talk about this real quick. I wasn't going in with full-on pessimism that this was going to be the worst thing ever. There's no way they could possibly redeem this. I honestly hope that they turn this around. And
yeah, I was really wanting them to do good with this segment.
I honestly, you know what? There's still time. There's still time they could easily turn this around. But last night, they didn't do it as good as they could have. And they had a segment where it was Randy Orton's title coronation. And this, quite frankly, well, it
wasn't really even about Randy Orton.
I know. It really wasn't about Randy Orton at all.
I mean, he talked for like a minute and a half.
which thank God.
Right. I mean, that was already pushing it.
Yeah. But anyway, so they have all the roster standing outside of the on the stage, and Triple H is coming out, and McMahon and Stephanie are already in the ring, and they cut a promo about how it's a wonder. This is a wondrous occasion, damn it! I'm Vince McMahon, you know. And then Triple H is talking about why he did what he did, and he was like, "I did it for this business."
No, what first he said, this is the part where I'm supposed to explain everything to you. And then he was like, saying he wasn't going to do it. And then a couple minutes later, he started to explain himself.
Indeed, but Triple H's mic work was pretty good here. Triple H is naturally a good heel.
It was convincing, but I still don't like the idea at this point of his career of Triple H being a heel.
Yeah, I see what a lot of people don't understand. It's not the fact that Randy Orton won the title with the briefcase. It's the idea that the McMahons are even being a part of this storyline that I don't like.
They're just trying. We've heard about rumors for this storyline for a while. It's going to be a big thing that is going to supposedly last until WrestleMania.
Yeah,
So
quite frankly,
that's just the McMahons trying to get their names on the big WrestleMania 30 show.
yeah. Honestly, I really don't think Triple H needs to be involved in a huge storyline anymore. I mean, at least he's doing it from an executive position rather than an in-ring one.
For
Although
now.
that could,
For now. We
that
all
could very
know.
easily change.
We all know. I think I see where this is going, but
But quite frankly, Triple H, he did all right here. He was very convincing and he was funny at times. And he was talking about, you think I wanted to do it with the guy I was doing it with? It sounded kind of gay,
right.
but there's tons of bad water under that bridge. And then of course he's like, Randy Orton comes out and he's like, my name is
No, first
Randy.
something huge happened. He went
What?
to give Stephanie McMahon a handshake and they hugged.
Oh yeah, nice continuity there, by the way.
They just completely despite the fact Triple H, you know, he was referencing the WrestleMania 25 storyline.
Oh yeah,
It was so obvious, and then Stephanie's
yes.
all like, "Hey, never mind, it's okay."
Well, yeah, that's part of the continuity. He said that it's all water under the bridge for the sake of the company.
Even then, it just I don't know.
It was actually kind of a nice touch. I actually did like that part.
It felt super heelish, and I did like that. But
yeah, it definitely felt like a scumbag moment, and that's what made it work.
And then they zoomed in on Orton's face during it.
And then they talked, and then Orton got the microphone and was like, "I told you so. My name is Randy Orton, and you would not see it coming." Even though we all saw it coming a mile away, we knew it was happening the minute Triple H said he was going to be the special guest referee in that match. Yep. We just didn't know the exact moment,
and we still didn't want it to happen, just because.
Yeah.
And I haven't even explained. We haven't really explained why we hate this so much. So I guess we'll probably do that after we talk about this. But
yeah. So anyway, after Randy Orton says, "You should all be giving Triple H a round of applause," and Triple H gets back on the microphone, and that's it for Randy Orton for the rest of the night, as far as talking goes. Which, thank God, because Randy Orton, I don't know what the fuck happened, but he suddenly lost all his charisma.
Yep.
And can't talk for his life.
Despite the fact they said Orton has lots of charisma and is an A+ and a superstar.
I know. Orton can't talk at all. I don't know what the fuck happened to him, but all of a sudden he just became one of the most boring fucking people on the planet. And this is somebody that marked the fuck out for Legend Killer Orton.
Yeah, I enjoyed Legacy Orton myself.
So anyway, Triple H then says, "All right, Daniel Bryan, you can come out. We'll let you air your grievances or whatever." And we were thinking, okay, this segment could make or break Bryan.
Yeah.
You know,
was going to make or break Bryan for the post
Yeah.
SummerSlam thing.
But what I'll just tell you what they did and what they should have done. So Bryan just comes out. He just comes out from the side of the stage, and he just walks slowly toward the ring. And Triple H is egging him on.
Well, it should be noted, the Shield was guarding the ring.
Yes, the Shield was guarding the ring. But,
and Triple H told them to go away, and,
yeah, he told them to go away, and Triple H was egging Daniel Bryan on. Saying stuff like, you guys might want to move because he looks like he's scared. And he did look like he was scared.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I know somebody was like, he looked like he was furious. No, he didn't. He looked like he was scared.
Yeah.
He was shaking, and he looked like he was shaking in fear. He looked like a rat going up to a cat.
Yep.
But, so, as he's about to go toward the ring, of course, the Shield jump him and beat the shit out of him. And it looked like, oh shit, they might actually be making Daniel Bryan look strong. He's actually fighting back. And then
he took out the Shield for about 30 seconds.
Yeah. Then, of course, the Shield jumped him again, and they were about to triple powerball him, and then he was like, Triple H was like, guys, don't do that, let him in the ring. And as soon as Daniel Bryan gets up to the ropes, Randy Orton RKO's him, and that's the end of Raw.
First, all the McMahons and Orton hold hands and praise Jesus to end Raw.
Yeah. Quite frankly,
stupid.
This could have been better. And again, people are like, oh, this is Austin. This is Austin. No, it's not.
Austin would not have been taken out by he would have no-sold the RKO, got up, beat the shit out of Orton, beat the shit out of Triple H, and then, like, the Shield would have to come beat him down.
No, he wouldn't have no-sold it. What he would have done was not walk straight through there. He would have came from, like, another entryway through the crowd, and he would have got his hands on everybody before they got on top of him.
Right.
And that's what they should have done with Bryan. They should have had Bryan come out from the crowd, from a position where they weren't looking, and then have him tackle Orton or tackle Triple H.
Right.
And then have everybody separate them and then beat Bryan down. I have no problem with the idea of Bryan being down first. I have no problem with that. You know?
But you don't have to make him look like a little bitch.
They could have done it in a way that doesn't make him look stupid. And that's what they did. They made him look stupid. It was an obvious trap. You know? It was an obvious trap. They could have made Bryan look smart and have him come out from another way. You know? They had Brad Maddox earlier say Daniel Bryan's in the building. That made it sound like he was going to come in through the crowd.
Right.
And then he comes in from the side of the stage just walking slowly with that scared look on his face. And I don't know. I'm not going to say that Daniel Bryan's doomed. I'm not going to say that because that'd be stupid. We know that's not the case. But I do think that segment could have been better. And I have hopes for this storyline. I'm not going to say that this storyline is doomed to fail. But my biggest concern, and the reason why I was initially pissed off at what happened at SummerSlam, was because it reminded me of what happened a couple years ago with Christian.
Yep. Which means that Bryan could either... There are two things that could happen with Bryan. He could either stay at the top or end up being like Christian and suddenly he's mid-card for life.
Not only that, but there's also other things they can do that could really fuck everything up. One...
Turn Bryan heel.
Turn Bryan heel. Which would be the worst thing that could happen right now. And I could see WWE doing it. Because sometimes WWE is one of those companies that they have great moments, you know, and they can do great sometimes, but one little thing they can do can fuck everything up. Yep. And that's what I'm not going to say that this storyline is doomed. I'm just going to say I remain skeptical. I think that's the most fair thing I can say about it. As far as the whole show goes, though, I'd say it was an upper mid-card Raw.
Yeah.
I mean, the matches were good. There was only a couple segments that I really, had a problem with, and they were the main event segments.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think that they were inherently bad. I just think that they could have been better. And with that, I think that ends our discussion on WWE related stuff. I guess we'll just talk about things that are currently. What?
Never mind. I forgot.
Oh, great.
My bad.
Professionalism, ladies and gentlemen.
I forgot. Okay, jeez.
But I guess now we'll just talk about something else that we've been reading in wrestling news. And currently in TNA right now.
Oh my god. First off, let's just go ahead. Just fuck this company.
Yeah.
I don't like TNA. I haven't watched TNA since roughly 2010, 2011, I think.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. The last time I watched TNA consistently was probably 2011. I have been catching them on and off, for like maybe a week or so. Within the meantime, but honestly, TNA is not great. I honestly don't like TNA at all. There are way too many comparisons to WCW, and not in a good way.
Not to mention the company is run by trash.
Yeah, their business ethics aren't exactly great, and that's kind of what we're talking about today. Jesse Sorensen is a wrestler who, at I think it was Destination X in 2012, wrestled a match for the X Division title, and he severely injured his neck, and there's a possibility that he'll never be able to wrestle again. And it's a very serious injury. I think he's I don't know if he's still wheelchair bound, but I know that he cannot wrestle. I know that for a fact.
Yep.
And what's really scummy about all this is, first off, they ended up leaving his medical bills with his mother. They wouldn't even help with the medical bills.
And his mother, he said,
and his mother had
so much debt,
and she had to file for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And that's just a depressing story. And this isn't the first time that TNA has done this to a talent. Daphne had a really serious thing with that, and she ended up filing a lawsuit and won over this. And
he needs to do the same thing.
He really does. And what's really shitty about this is that Dixie Carter publicly stated that Jesse Sorensen would always have a job with the company, and just recently they fired him.
Yep.
So
his contract wasn't even expired. They just outright told him, "We don't need you anymore. We can't do anything with you."
And we will be leaving a source for this story in the show notes.
Yes.
So you guys can read this yourself. This is not just us making shit up about TNA. This is something that was reported on. And I know that sometimes you just have to say LOL dirt sheets. But this is something that we've heard about TNA before. So it's very believable. And the fact that Jesse Sorensen was fired and he's come out on interviews and said this shit himself, it's very believable. And quite frankly, TNA has a history of not paying their people right anyway. I know, for example, when Taylor Wilde was champion of the Knockouts.
That's when I liked TNA. Actually, I was a supporter of TNA back around that time, I think.
When Taylor Wilde was the Knockouts champion, she said that she not only had to work TNA, but she also had to work at a sunglasses hut in a local mall to make ends meet. That's how terrible.
A champion at that.
And the champion. That tells you how. I mean, sure. I guess you could just say, well, it's the Knockouts. But
that doesn't matter.
But when you compare that to, say, Hulk Hogan making $40,000 an appearance, that's really shitty.
Not to mention all these MMA guys they've brought in.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why they had to fire so many talents was because they are going on the road now, and they don't have enough money. They fired so many people that they have all kinds of blunders now. For example, they fired their head of talent relations, Pritchard, their brother Love. What the hell was his full name? Bruce Pritchard. They fired him. Well, after they fired him, they forgot to have somebody check to make sure that all the wrestlers could compete at house shows. And in Missouri, all the wrestlers didn't get their fucking blood work done for drug testing. And half the roster that was promised to appear at a house show couldn't show up. I mean, TNA is just a sinking ship right now.
And going on the road's killing them. It's killing them, and you know what? I can't say I feel sorry for them.
No.
I feel sorry for some of the talent.
Yes, I feel sorry for some of the talent, but at the same time, I feel like they should have jumped ship when they had the chance.
Yep, they need to jump ship. They need to go to either Ring of Honor or hell, go down to WWE, and if you have to, go to NXT.
NXT's fucking wonderful anyway. So.
Yeah, I mean NXT would help so many of these guys. Like we've seen what NXT has done to people.
Indeed.
It's just a great development place to be, and that's not me being a WWE mark. We're seeing the results of this coming from the Shield, coming from Bray Wyatt. We've seen what can happen to you when you just spend some time on NXT.
Hell, look at Big E Langston.
Right.
When he was in FCW, nobody gave a shit about him. All of a sudden, he comes on NXT, and he's one of the most over fucking people in the company. NXT is great, and I honestly think that TNA talent who see TNA for what it is, a sinking ship, need to go make those calls to WWE. Absolutely. And that's not to say anything bad about Ring of Honor. Not at all. If you want to go to Ring of Honor, go to Ring of Honor. But I do think that TNA is a sinking ship, and I do think that people need to plan accordingly for it.
Yep.
And honestly, at this point, I'm ready for TNA to go under.
I am too.
I'm looking forward to it. And quite frankly, they deserve it. I think the day can't come fast enough when TNA is nothing more than a part of Vince McMahon's library.
Right. And you know what's going to happen at this point? That they tried so hard to compete with WWE, and Vince and crew just no-sold it so hard.
I know they did.
Like they never even acknowledged. How many times have TNA called out WWE by name, by wrestler name, and they just never even get a little bit of acknowledgement? Because that just shows you WWE does not see them as even close to a threat.
Not at all.
They're nothing. They're probably just a backyard promotion to them.
They're just a glorified indie company.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, TNA has no one to blame for it but themselves. And I hate saying that because I would love to have WWE have real competition. But it's just not TNA.
It's not. And I don't think there are any companies out there that are going to get that big.
No, Ring of Honor.
Ring of Honor, they don't have the writing or none of their guys can really, not enough of their guys can work the mic enough.
The only guy in Ring of Honor right now that I think is even really worth much is Kevin Steen.
Without a doubt. They've taken almost everyone else.
And everyone else they've either taken or they're simply just not quite ready yet.
Yep.
And that's all I can really say about that. Fuck TNA. You know, TNA I would just kind of push aside as a shitty wrestling company. But the fact that they have these business policies like this and these practices where they're just screwing over their talent and it's almost heartless. It's almost to the extent of being heartless. And I'm not saying we need to force TNA to do these things. Not at all. But the fact is, TNA shouldn't be surprised when people get pissed off at their company when they don't provide for their talent.
Right.
And I can't really say anything more about that.
I can't either. So in other wrestling news, we did have the big 30 years of WrestleMania mode roster revealed for WWE 2K14.
Indeed.
And I must say it's pretty damn impressive.
I like it.
It's a good list.
I mean, you got a bad case like WWE 13 of guys who are basically just alternate versions of the same guy taking up an extra slot.
Which I hate that so much. And there's only really one character. There's two things that I can really note about that. One, the only exception to that rule that I like is Hogan and Hollywood Hogan being separate characters. I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. But Brock Lesnar having a retro character slot, what? One wears UFC trunks and the other one wears wrestling tights. Do
How
we
about Triple
really
H?
need? Well, yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on what Triple H we're getting.
No, we're getting. You know what the difference is?
No, I haven't seen any of the pictures or anything because I was at work when that went down too.
One has long hair, one doesn't.
Oh my god.
That's the difference.
Oh my god.
And they're calling the one with long hair retro.
See, I've never been a big fan of that whole thing, and the WWE games aren't the only ones that do it. The Naruto games are very, very bad for doing it. And I'm sure there are other games out there too, but Naruto and WWE are probably the worst for it. And they didn't even used to do it that way.
I could kind of understand when the characters have completely separate move lists and are completely separate gimmicks.
Like Hogan and Hollywood Hogan.
Or even in WWE 13, when they had Mankind Dude Love Cactus Jack and the three versions of Triple H. Yeah, say what you will, but at least they were different.
Yeah, they were quite different.
But, you know, what the fuck do we know?
Right. I will say it'll be nice to play as Ultimate Warrior and Goldberg for the first time in quite a long time.
My biggest treat here is Razor Ramon and Randy Savage, King Kong Bundy,
Which
and
we've
Retro.
seen. Miss Elizabeth, too, is in the game.
Yeah, and Retro Ric Flair.
Yes.
That's amazing to me. Of course, once again, we have Steamboat in the game. We have a bunch of repeats. I'm sure we're going to
Stone Cold, we got Edge, we got Mick Foley.
Yeah.
We got Andre the Giant.
That's nice. Tell you the truth, I'm kind of surprised we didn't get Vader. I know he really didn't have anything big going on at WrestleMania, but still.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's been in so many of the recent games. He's been in the past 2 years.
Yeah, he's been in the past 2 years. And not only that, but he was in 2009 as well.
Yeah. But we got some of the matches revealed for the 30 years of WrestleMania mode as well. Some examples are Steamboat versus Savage from WrestleMania 3. Hogan, Andre, obviously.
Hogan, Bundy.
Warrior versus Hogan. Razor Ramon versus Shawn Michaels. Stone Cold versus The Rock. The Rock versus Hogan. We got Edge versus Mick Foley.
We're probably also getting Austin and Brett.
Probably, yeah.
Because Brett's in the game too.
Triple H versus The Undertaker from WrestleMania 28.
In fact, we're probably also getting Brett HBK as well.
I would hope so. I know we are getting HBK versus Flair from 24.
They also have a modern Shawn Michaels and a retro Shawn Michaels in the game.
So that makes sense, though. That one makes sense, too, because Shawn's look has changed a lot.
Yeah. So we're probably getting Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart as well as Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon. I
presume we're going to get Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker from WrestleMania 25.
Diesel is in the game, too, so I wouldn't be surprised if we got Diesel versus Undertaker, Diesel versus Bret Hart.
There's a lot of matches we're going to get. I think that mode's going to be much better than Attitude Era mode, which I like Attitude Era mode, but...
They said that there's going to be 45 WrestleMania matches.
Jesus.
So, that's a lot. We're getting Ric Flair and Randy Savage. They did confirm that. Because I think that's the only WrestleMania outside of WrestleMania 24 that Ric Flair actually competed in. Except, no, that's not true. He did compete against The Undertaker in one.
Yeah, that's true.
Which, who knows? I mean, I know American Badass Undertaker is in the game in a special pre-order package. So,
which I am looking into getting pending on some upcoming PS4 news, which
it,
we may or may not get to. That's You'll find out if we're talking about it or not.
indeed.
That's just be
So,
straightforward.
yeah,
This week is Gamescom though over in Germany, so there's
indeed.
lots of gaming news coming in and out. Another thing I wanted to talk about though is 2K14 looks awesome.
Indeed, it does.
I can't wait for it. I don't care what anyone really says. There's always going to be the haters that don't like it, but I think it's going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to 2K14. I like 12, I like 13. And, I mean, despite the fact that you could argue that they're kind of like the Madden of wrestling games, it's kind of different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're doing different things the past few years too.
And not only that, but the WWE games, that's the kind of game where a roster change is kind of necessary because different wrestlers do different things. And, you know, that's just what it comes down to. So that's why it's important that you update the roster.
Yes, it's true. And 2K14 comes out October 29th. We could have coverage of it once again, depending on basically money. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's just a matter of whether or not we actually get the game at launch or pre-order it or whatever. You know, we'll try to, obviously, but we get it when we get it. That's just
Yep.
what it comes down to.
Let's see. Anything else on 2K14 we need to note? Or
Um, not really.
now I know
Uh,
supposedly we are getting another announcement sometime this week at Gamescom, but I don't know. I'm hoping it's when they're gonna announce. This is when we're releasing the rest of the regular roster. Because I do
yeah,
want to see who else made the cut. I know they did confirm that Darren Young's in the game after he came out. They wanted to welcome him to the roster, so that confirms probably Titus O'Neil as well. So we know we got PTP, which is awesome. Can't wait for
which is
that.
great. As far as who, I mean, I guess we can kind of talk about who we want from the modern roster that we want in the game. Primetime players, of course. The Shield.
The Shield, they have to be in. They would have no excuse, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I want the Wyatt family in, but I know it's still kind of early
I
for
see
them.
Wyatt family being DLC.
Yeah, I hope they get in at least through DLC.
They'd be
So,
stupid not to. They gave us Sandow and Cesaro last year,
yeah.
so I think they can pull it off.
So other than that, I don't really think there's anything much. I hope they update Daniel Bryan's model.
Yeah,
When WWE 13 came out, it was basically his WWE 12 model with different tights. And
yeah.
by the time that game came out, he looked completely different by that point.
And he looks completely different now
Yeah,
compared to his 2K14 model. And there's not much you can really say if they don't update it. I mean, Ukes is known for being lazy, but I would assume that 2K would kind of put more pressure on them, but only time will tell. Because we know
indeed.
2K has ridiculously high standards for their sports games. They do. It's a well-known fact. There's a reason why they have like the grasp on the NBA games. Because
Indeed, they do.
they do really good with those. So I'm hoping they can put that kind of pressure on the Ukes. Or if Ukes doesn't live up to them, sorry Ukes, get us a new team, take a year off, get us a new engine, do whatever. 2K should do whatever it takes to give us a wrestling game that everyone wants.
Hell, 2K might just take over development themselves.
Yeah, that's what I was hitting at. But
Oh,
only time will tell for that too. Because so far they've kept Dukes around for 2K14, so
indeed. But with that, I think that's it for all wrestling-related news. With going into 2K14, I guess that's a good segue. And we'll start talking about video games next. And with that, I guess we'll now talk about video games. First things first, Matt, you went to GameStop to pick up Saints Row 4.
I did, and well, it's Saints Row. I've only played the first 4 or 5 missions so far. The story is pretty crazy as expected so far. I haven't gotten to any of the superpower stuff yet, but at first it felt kind of clunky.
Did it?
Control wise, I don't know. It felt like But as I went on, I've kind of adjusted to it. It feels like they kind of zoomed in more on the character model a little bit. You can see it was kind of, the camera was really far back in Saints Row the Third. But
Hmm.
now it's a lot more focused in on your character model. Kind of like the Resident Evil 4 style camera, if you've ever seen any footage of that. But I'm enjoying it. The controls are the same, luckily. Although I couldn't remember how to crouch for the life of me, and I almost died a few times until I finally looked up the controls in the digital manual. But it's definitely a Santro game. It is the same map. I see why that upsets people, but I like Steelport, and it's a changed Steelport because it's run over by aliens, as everyone knows from the trailers. So I won't give any spoilers to how that comes about or anything. But so far, pretty good first impressions. I do have the season pass, so I do get all the DLC and stuff. Speaking of which, anyone who's listening to this and owns Saints Row 4, you should get the season pass. Normally, season pass go for $20-$25, but the Saints Row season 4 pass is only $10. So you'd be a fool to pass that up because
Sounds
that
good.
includes all the DLC.
That sounds really good. And they didn't do anything special at GameStop for the midnight launch.
No, not in mine anyway. I know a lot of GameStops are different, but from what I'm to understand from the manager, it really depends on what corporate says they can do, and then they have to run that by the owner. So
Ah. Well, I guess with that, I really don't have anything interesting to talk about as far as games that I've been playing or anything new pickups like that.
well, we can
Um,
talk about GameStop's new policy on monopolizing certain games.
like
Xenoblade Chronicles, the
and
big explosion over that.
you know more about this than I do. Why don't you explain what's going on?
I do. Xenoblade Chronicles was an RPG released for the Wii. Um, it was distributed by GameStop. You could only get this game at GameStop, and it was $50. People loved it, but it didn't do very well sales wise because JRPGs and on a Wii in America. Come on now. But for a while, no one could find any copies of it, and we found out that GameStop had like 15,000 copies of the game in their warehouse. And I know a former assistant manager from GameStop. Uh, he was saying he made a status on Facebook talking about how he had been trying to order them, but he always got denied. And then the day after he left GameStop, they announced that GameStop is redistributing used only copies of Xenoblade Chronicles for a shocking price of $90.
Unbelievable.
Um, what they've done is they have new copies of the game. They took the shrink wrap off and slapped a used sticker on it, and are selling it for $90. And it's
That
dirty, and they have already said that it's just a business, blah blah blah, and we look forward to doing it with such titles as the Metroid Prime trilogy.
Wait, so they announced that they're going to do it with even more titles?
Yes, they said we look forward to doing this with more retro titles.
Wow, that is
Metroid
something.
Prime is next, and that's not okay. Definitely not okay at all. That's why
Definitely.
I've considered using more Amazon as my pre-order people.
Wow,
Since
that is very very something.
shady is what it is.
Yeah, that seems a little on the down and dirty side of things. I guess I could talk about one game that came out recently that I've been playing a little bit. Ducktales Remastered. Of course, it's a remake of the Capcom classic for the NES, and I've been enjoying it. It's pretty much what I expected it to be. It's a DuckTales game. It's pretty much the game I knew, although they did have some slight changes to it, including one change. They got the original voice cast back to do the voices of the characters for cutscenes. And some people are having a problem with this, and I can kind of understand where they're coming from in the sense that, it wasn't needed necessarily, but it is a nice touch. and it's just a cool thing to see that. First off, the guy who plays Scrooge is over 90 years old, and he's lending his voice to this game. That to me is awesome, and he still sounds like the Scrooge that I grew up with.
Right.
And I will say one thing though, they did put a lot of cutscenes into the game, a lot of them, and it can kind of break the flow a little bit. It basically how it works is you go into a level and you have to collect certain things within the level in order to progress, and every time you get one, a cutscene happens.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And now, mind you, they're not super long cutscenes. We're not talking like Metal Gear Solid 4 length,
Right.
but it can break the flow of gameplay a little bit. And some people were like, "Well, this is horrible. This can't be. We can't. This is terrible." And
They're
for some reason,
skippable though, right?
they are skippable. However, you have to actually press start and go to hit and select skip cutscene.
That's just a lot of work.
The horror.
Oh.
I I have to actually press start and go to skip cutscene. I don't have time for this low score. That's at least if GameSpot is any indication. Which, by the way, that review was terrible.
That it is.
I'm sorry.
Anyone who agrees with that review is they're wrong.
Silly. That's all I'll say. But anyway, I haven't completed the game yet because I haven't had the time to play every level, and but what I have played, I really enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. I have no other new games to really talk about though, so I guess with that, we will talk about the Gamescom PlayStation conference.
Right, I guess we could talk about some of the things we did see the EA conference as well.
Part of it, anyway. I saw.
Yeah, the only thing that was really of note of that was how amazing Titanfall looks.
Pretty much. That's the only thing I really care about is Titanfall. Um, Other than that, it was like spots, and
Sports, Battlefield, Levolution, sports. Oh look, Titanfall, sports, Battlefield 4 Premium. Good night, folks.
yeah. But Titanfall looks really awesome. It doesn't look like your typical generic first-person shooter. There's a lot of really cool platforming elements of the game. One thing I really liked is that you can bounce off of buildings and go like great distances and really like just crazy shit.
Then you can summon the mechs, and instead of if you want to get out of them, you can tell it to follow you until you want to get back in it.
Yeah, you can have a mech show up and you can climb in it and use it like you would normally and just kill things with it. Or you can get out of the mech and stand on top of the mech and have it walk forward while you're on top of the mech, and you and the mech can work together and kill everything in your path. Or you can work from the ground and have the mech follow you and kill everything. And from what we've seen, apparently the game is multiplayer primarily.
It's only multiplayer.
It's only multiplayer, and what we actually saw from the game looked like a single player style gameplay.
Yep.
But it was multiplayer, and it looked really cool. We saw some really cool elements with the actual the HUD that you actually use while you're playing, like cool little stuff in the corners, like if someone's talking to you, like if a character is talking to you, you get a little screen that pops up.
It's
Showing
really
them
neat.
talking to you. It looks really cool. Of course, some people would say it looks a little too grimdark for them. I mean, with the futuristic setting, it kind of works. So, I'm honestly, I really hope that Titanfall comes to the PlayStation 4 because I have no interest in getting an Xbox One at all.
Right.
If it turns out that Titanfall is going to be an Xbox One exclusive, I guess it's just too bad for me. I'm not playing it.
Right,
Because
and
I refuse to get the Xbox One out of principle. But I really hope that this game comes to the PlayStation 4 and it looks really fun.
Yep. It does. I'm excited for it. That and Dead Rising 3. I really want to see come to the PS4. I really, honest to God, would love for that to come to the PS4. But if it doesn't, then it doesn't. I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna get upset. I'll be a little salty, maybe, naturally so. But
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like you win some, you lose some.
yep.
I guess with that, we'll now talk about Sony's conference.
You mean the crowd?
Yes, oh my god. This was the biggest complaint I have with Sony's conference, and it doesn't have anything to do with their actual, like, what they were showing people. It had to do with the camera work.
I don't know who
Why,
decided to do that, but they should be punched in the face.
why, why the fuck would you think it's a good idea to show the crowd instead of showing the game? And then there was that point where they were showing a guy playing Assassin's Creed 4, and they just show him.
Yep. And then he switched to the Vita, and they were showing us the Vita screen, and then a cutscene happened. They showed us the crowd for the entire time until the last, literally 2 seconds of the cutscene.
We saw the last frame of the cutscene, and then that was it. Oh, and we also have this exclusive part of Assassin's Creed for the PlayStation 4 and Vita. Let's show the crowd while we talk about it.
Yeah, I don't know why they were doing that, but it came off as very, very unprofessional.
Now, it's not. I mean, they did show the screen of what you could see. You know what it really reminded me of? In WWE, when they show promos, like backstage promos, and they show the crowd looking at the Titantron.
Yeah.
Except this was like 10 times worse because the screen during the PlayStation conference was a lot smaller than the Titantron, so you could barely see what they were actually doing, even with your full screen going.
Yep.
It was just, the camera work was awful. And of course, the Sony conference wasn't perfect. They had some shit that I didn't care about, like, namely the Gran Turismo stuff, which, I mean, hey, if you're a fan of that, good for you. I'm not. Although one thing that was really groan-inducing, they took time to talk about the fact that they're making a Gran Turismo movie?
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't take longer than a couple minutes for that, because I would have been like, whoa, this is a racing game, what are you doing?
Yeah, that seems like kind of pointless.
One interesting thing they announced was, I'm just going to kind of skip around. I'm not going in any order. I'm just going to talk about what things I found the most interesting. We'll talk about a lot of the stuff. But
Oh yeah, we're not
Shadow
going in.
of the Beast.
Oh my god, I want this game, and I haven't seen any gameplay of it yet.
Just alone, first off, I've never played the original game. Didn't know there was an original game until Dave said something.
There were actually 3 games.
Well, there you go. Look, I learned something else. But this remake, I guess, technically, regardless, I didn't care. It looked amazing. Like, just the graphical style alone, I was like, holy shit.
I mean, the main character looked badass as fuck.
It's gonna be something amazing. I want to find out who's developing that and I'm gonna follow that closely.
Yeah, Shadow of the Beast PS4 looks fucking awesome. Even though we didn't see any gameplay yet, I'm still excited about it. The original Shadow of the Beast games weren't exactly great by any means, but it's just cool that they're bringing that series back and in a platform where you could probably make a pretty good game out of it. One thing that me and Matt really liked about this conference was they put a lot of focus on indie developers.
They spent a good probably half the conference.
Yeah, and honestly, that's a beautiful thing because indie developers, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't play a lot of indie games, and I'm not going to say that they're the backbone of a console, but indie developers are always a good thing to promote. Because it means more people are going to want your game, your console.
And they announced so many. In addition to what they already announced at the 2 previous conferences they've had about the PS4. Like, every time they have a conference about the PS4, they're announcing indie games. You know they're coming, and that's amazing. I love it.
I think they introduced us to like 5 or 6 indie games while we were there. They had one, I forget the name of
Murasaki Baby.
Murasaki Baby, that looked
weird, but I kind of want to play it. I want to see
It,
what it's
it
like.
it was definitely weird, and like not weird like bad weird, but
But legit weird.
like strange, just strange. Doesn't look like my. It's personally my cup of tea. It's coming for the PlayStation Vita, and they. I guess it's going to implement the touchscreen controls, um, which I guess that's pretty cool. It had a cool art style though. I did like the art style.
Yeah.
Very
There's a lot of announcements. I'm sorry if we talk over each other, guys. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
I also like the fact that they're bringing Rogue Legacy to the PlayStation 4. So that's
Yes.
awesome. They also, the biggest indie game uh, in all of indie games is also coming to the PlayStation 4, Minecraft.
Minecraft, and despite the fact Microsoft and all their Xbox supporters were like, we have Minecraft. The Xbox One's gonna have Minecraft. The PS4 is gonna suck because they don't have Minecraft. Well, guess what?
We got
We
it
do.
now, bitch!
Like your argument just became so invalid. It's not even funny. Like
Also, The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, PlayStation Plus users will get it for free.
as well as this one game. I don't know remember what it was called, but Dave thought it was really cool looking. But we're getting that for free too.
Oh yes, that's right. That ship game. What the hell was the name of it?
It was by the guys who made Stardust, the
Yeah,
Starhawk, or
Res
whatever it was called.
something or
It was some weird name. But either way, we're getting it for free. It's like they're already announcing so much free stuff for PS Plus for the PS4.
if I were to describe this game, I forget the name of it, and we'll probably put the name of it in the show notes. If I were to describe what this game was, if you think of Super Stardust HD is comparable to Asteroids, this was basically like comparable to Defender, and it looked pretty good.
It looks
It looked like
colorful.
like my kind of game. Uh, very much arcadey shooter, horizontal shooter. So it looked really fun. We also saw Infamous.
Oh my god, that game looks so cool, man. I'm really loving. I love Infamous, not as much as maybe our pal Mike, but I really am looking forward to Second Son. It looks like it's gonna be fun as hell.
Of course, we mentioned earlier we got Assassin's Creed 4. Um,
Pretty standard Assassin's Creed stuff at this point. You got your naval battles that were introduced in 3, which Europe is getting for free on PS Plus, which I bet we're not going to get anything nearly as good as that, so.
they also finally showed gameplay footage of Watch Dogs.
Well, we've seen gameplay footage of Watch Dogs 4. We got a new trailer for Watch Dogs.
Okay, we got a new trailer for it. I thought there was no gameplay for it out yet.
No, we got gameplay at E3.
Shows how much I know.
Right. But that was an amazing trailer as well.
And this was one of those things where, again, they kept showing the fucking crowd when they were supposed to be showing the screen.
Now they weren't out. They weren't as bad with the Watch Dogs one for some reason, but like they were the worst time with the crowd showing was without a doubt the Assassin's Creed stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. And of course they have all these launch games out. Some cool features were talked about, like streaming through Twitch.
Which we were nervous about because, they already told us we had Ustream. But who the fuck uses Ustream to watch games? Hardly anyone. But now we have Ustream and Twitch.
Which is great. And the biggest news of all, the release date.
Prepare your
November
wallets.
15th. November 15th, the PlayStation 4 comes out.
And I should be able to afford it.
Indeed. Matt was real nervous because he thought that the system was coming out in October, specifically October 29th.
There were lots of rumors about it leaking out of Gamescom.
There were a lot of rumors coming out, but now we know it's coming out in the US on November 15th, and I think November 25th in Europe or something like
29th,
that.
29th, I think.
29th. Okay. So, I was close.
It was a pretty good press conference, despite, like, when you look at the content of the press conference, it was a good press conference.
Oh yeah, they definitely introduced a lot of stuff that made me interested in buying the system. They offered some pretty cool stuff. One of the things they talked about was if you buy Call of Duty Ghosts on the PlayStation 3 for a limited time only, you get it on the PlayStation 4, you could buy it at a heavily reduced price.
which is something GameStop's already kind of doing. I'll get
But either way, it's still a really nice gesture.
Yeah, like, but for me, people like me, even though the Assassin's Creed and all them comes out before on the PS3 than the PS4 launches, I'm not. I'm gonna wait for my PS4 version of the game personally.
Yeah,
But
honestly, these aren't necessarily games that really do anything for me. Like, I've never been the biggest fan of the Call of Duty games, but hey, if you're a fan of Call of Duty, this sounds like it might be right up your alley.
well, it also applies to Battlefield 4, Assassin's Creed 4, and Watch Dogs.
Yeah, that's also another thing to consider. There were also some other games that were talked about here. Uh,
War Thunder.
War Thunder. That looks pretty interesting, and it's co-op.
It's an free to play MMO.
Yeah,
So
which I mean, anybody who watches us on YouTube, you know that co-op is like automatic. Like, we
we're
love
we're,
doing
we're
co-op
doing
shit.
we're doing it. It's like we're
We
doing it.
we're getting it. We love co-op shit. Um, but that's all I can really think of to
they
talk about for the Gamescom.
they did announce that people who don't have PS Plus, when they get a PS4, you get a free 2 weeks.
Huh.
Um, so even though it's not like they used to give out a month for PS3s, but still for PS4 users who already don't have PS Plus, why someone doesn't have it at this point, Dave, I don't understand. Despite money issues, I know they're coming. I know that's what you're gonna say next. But PS Plus is by far the best rewards program in gaming, outright.
I don't have it obviously for money reasons, because my broke ass can't afford it. But from what I've seen, and not just from you, but from a lot of people, it definitely sounds like PlayStation Plus is absolutely worth the money and is one of the best deals in gaming right now.
I mean, just think
Um,
about how much free stuff you can get off my account because of PS Plus.
yeah, I mean, I get shit off of his account for free because of it, so I can't complain. But that's all I can really think of to talk about for the Gamescom.
I got one more thing. One
What?
more thing. Vita price cut. They
And
and
the
Borderlands
PS.
2.
Yes, the Vita is getting Borderlands 2, and they're getting a price cut on the Vita. They also announced for some reason the Vita is going to be $199, by the way, 199 euros. But they also, for some reason, why anyone would do this, I don't know. 12 gigabyte PS3s are now going to be $199. Whoa.
It's really a waste of money.
I know. I mean,
For
I have
250, you can get a 500 gigabyte model these days. So.
I have an old ass model that's still 40 gigs. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so that seems kind of silly to me.
But yeah, definitely a good conference there. And if I guess if we were to use our wrestling style rating system, that was main event.
Um,
Content based on not thinking about camera wise, but content wise, I'll give that a main event rating.
yeah, I'd say about main event.
Great
Um,
EA's was probably lower mid card.
yeah.
Too much focus on sports, but we've come to expect that from EA at this point.
So with that, I guess now for reals instead of plays. That's all I could really think of to talk about for the Gamescom presentation.
Yep.
And with that, that's going to kind of wrap up this podcast. For the final thing, I guess we'll just talk about our YouTube channels and what's coming up next. Matt, I guess you can go first.
Alright, so right now I'm uploading more of my Tomb Raider playthrough. I have a shitload of playthroughs going on at the moment, but I just finished up Pokemon Obsidian, a fan hack, so if you guys want to check that out, it's only 13 parts. Pretty fun game, but of course not complete, so I can't really judge it. I'm trying to finish up Tomb Raider soon, and I'm also doing runs of Metal Gear Solid 1 and Persona 3, and there'll be more footage on my channel soon of upcoming games, probably such as Kingdom Hearts 1.5 HD, and then probably nothing really new until the PS4 launches in November. But I'll still be doing like content between them, but no new games between now and then.
And of course, that's youtube.com/rmgmdpunk. And of course, on my channel, youtube.com/ironfury. Um, things are going to be continuing with Tecmo World Wrestling. I'm going to try and get more color commentators as I go, because I figure that's kind of a unique take on things. And I kind of like that direction. You know, I'm playing a wrestling game. I may as well try to put on like a wrestling show with it. I figure that's a cool way to show off an old game that's pretty fun. And of course, the co-op Saints Row the Third stuff will still be going up gradually, you know, as we record it and stuff like that. But other than that, I really don't have much in the way of stuff going up on my channel. But that's pretty much going to do it for us. So I'm Dave.
I'm Matt.
And with that, hey, thanks for joining us on this debut edition of the SuperPlex Brothers. And until next time,
Wait a
take
minute.
care.
I'm cutting
Wait.
you off. I'm cutting you off because I gotta promote something.
Oh.
Like our Facebook page to get
Yes.
all of the latest updates on the Superplex Brothers, including the new. This will not be a standard release day / recording. There will be more news on our all that on the Facebook page, facebook.com/ the Superplex Brother Bros, Superplex Bros.
Indeed. You know, that's actually a good thing. We have a Facebook page. We have a YouTube account, which this will be going up on. This will be going up on the YouTube account as well as will be available for download. Most likely through MediaFire.
Yep.
So, yeah. So anyway, with that out of the way, of course, I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt yet again.
And with that, thank you for listening to the very first episode of the Superplex Brothers. And until next time, take care.